All right, so let's explore how to write an equation in standard form given the information. Okay, so remember standard form is y or f of x is equal to a x minus h squared plus k. So essentially, we're given our vertex, which is our h and k, and we're given a point, which happens to be x and y. So if you think about it, I know my y, I know my x, I know my h, I know my k. The only thing I don't know is this a. So basically, we're going to be solving for our a by doing substitution. That's all that this problem is asking you to do. So -7 is equal to a parentheses, my x, which was 6, minus my h, which was 4, squared plus 1. So this will become -7 times a, or is equal to a times 2 squared plus 1, subtract 1, -8, a times 4, divide everything by 4, I get my a value as -2. Once I know my a value, then all I'm doing is I'm replacing my equation with the following numbers. So I'll be replacing the a, the h, and the k. So what does that look like? Y is equal to -2 parentheses x minus my h, so x minus 4 squared, and then plus my k value, so plus 1. So that is my equation that will have my vertex at this point, 4, 1, and a point at 6, -7. Verify this by plugging it into Desmos. So if I plug it into Desmos, you can see that I have a graph. Let's put it more in the middle. Here is my vertex, so 4, 1, and then we can see if I go all the way down to 6, we can see that it ends up being 6, -7. So it ends up being on our graph. Again, it's opening downward. That makes sense. We found an a value that happens to be a negative. Okay. So let's go ahead and try another one. So if you want to pause the video, try this one out on your own, feel free. If not, then let's go ahead and solve it together. So again, I'm going to replace my h and k, and these are my x's and my y's. So all I'm doing is I'm solving for a. So this equation will be my y, which is 4, is equal to a times my x, which is -2, minus a -4 squared, plus -1, so minus 1. Be careful, notice that there's a negative on the h. Notice I have a minus a negative. So that is going to turn into -2 plus 4, and then minus 1. I'll add 1 to both sides. I get 5, and this will become 2 squared, which is also equal to 4. So I'll divide both sides by 4, and I'll get an a value that happens to be a fraction. So my equation is 5 over 4 parentheses x. Now I notice that it became plus, so I'm just going to right away say x plus 4 squared minus 1. Again, remember that plus 4 inside is telling us that we have a horizontal shift to the left by 4. That's why there's a negative, and that -1 on the outside is telling us that we're going down. Again, if you want to pop it up into Desmos, see if these 2 points are in your equation, and they should be. All right, last but not least, you have a word problem, and so I found a similar word problem for you guys. So here is our question. So it's the height of the ball. So the height, which is in y, which is in feet, of a punted football is approximated by the equation given to us. Okay, so somebody found the equation for said path that the football takes. X is the horizontal distance in feet from where the football is punted. So we can ask a lot of different things. I can ask you what the maximum height of the ball is. In reality, what that's asking you to find is it's asking you to find the y coordinate, right? So here's our vertex, H and K. So this is really finding the y coordinate of your vertex. I could ask you from where does it hit the ground, right? So what happens if I wanted to know this point, right? This would be an x-intercept. Okay, so there's a lot of different things that I can ask on this problem, but this is the question that I asked. What's the maximum height that the ball received? Now on your paper, I said to use a calculator because I don't necessarily need you to show me by hand that you know how to multiply these giant fractions and plug them in and things like that. Use your calculator kind of best approximate. So remember that when it's in the general form, we want to use the equation for the vertex as negative b over 2a to find the x, and then the y value will be at negative b over 2a, but we're going to plug it in, so it's f of that number. So if I plug this in, so my b value is 9 over 5, right? And my a value is negative 16 over 2025. So again, you'd multiply these numbers together. And again, we plug this into a calculator. So if you plugged it into a calculator, it would look something like this. Okay, so negative and then the b all over 2 times your a value, and it approximately gives us about 113.9. We could potentially round to 114, but we'll just keep it as 113.9. So again, using a calculator to find that. So what do we say? It's about 113.9. And again, that tells us the x value. It's about 113.9, and that is our axis of symmetry. So how do I find the rest? I'm going to plug that lovely decimal into the equation. So 113.9, I'm going to square that. I'll add it to 9 over 5 times whatever 113.9 is, and then I'll add 3 halves. So again, use a calculator to figure out what the answer is. So if we use it, we would plug 113.9 in for our x's, so it looks something like this, and we get out about 104, and then again some decimals. So we can say approximately what's the maximum height of the ball? We would say about 104 feet, right? Give or take a decimal or two, right? An inch or two. And again, we found our vertex by using our vertex formula. So hopefully these 3 examples are going to help you now with the back side of your worksheet.